In the age of social media, smartphones, artificial intelligence, and self-driving cars, the architectural engineering construction industry remains antiquated and stuck in time. The AEC industry has been pigeonholed as a service-oriented business relying on the skills of a shrinking group of contractors using antiquated technologies and manual systems. It is time to move to 100% efficiency. It's time to design a process that will harness the power of automation, technology, and artificial intelligence. It's time to attract once again the top young talent to the AEC industry. It's time to embrace and celebrate innovation. It's time to start measuring production not in hours, but according to the efficiency and the quality of the product. I mean, aren't you sick and tired of banging your head against the same wall day in and day out and having the same conversation you had 5, 10, 20, 25 years ago? It's time to change the story. In 1925, Johann Vermaas, my great-grandfather, came to New Jersey from the Netherlands. Johann was a skilled brick mason, and he started a company called Vermaas Company. Johann trained his son, William Vermaas, my grandfather, to be a mason and a concrete contractor, and eventually William took over the company, and William trained his son, Garry Vermaas, my father, in the same way, and eventually Garry ran and owned the company. My father's company did concrete and masonry contracting in North Jersey, and he employed about 100 masons, formed carpenters, laborers, and iron workers. I started working when I was 12 years old, and I worked for about 10 summers long. I built forms, laid block, tied rebar, poured concrete, whatever it took. So I worked about 10 summers long with a long group of talented, awesome men. Everyone had a nickname. My nickname was Garbo, which was half Garry, half Rambo. And I worked with Mad Max, the Birdman, the Milkman, Skinhead, Buckeye, Bucky, Milton Bradley, as well as Joey, Mikey, Timmy, Frankie, Timmy, Johnny. I mean, he was Jersey, right? You know what's amazing? 30 years ago, the job site that I worked on looks almost identical to the job site that I walk on today. The only difference is now is that the workers actually wear the orange vests and the hats. Everybody's checking their cell phone, and nobody drinks beer at lunch anymore, unfortunately. As long as I can remember, I loved construction. I had no intentions of going to college. I couldn't wait to be on the site full time. When I was a junior in high school, my father actually came and said to me, "Hey Garry, you're not actually stupid, so you should probably go to college." So the next day I went to college, I went to my guidance counselor, and I said, "I want to go to college for construction." So she opened up her big book of jobs, and she fiddled through the pages, and she said, "You need to be a civil engineer." I had never heard that term in my life. So I asked the guidance counselor, "What's the best school for this civil engineering within 90 miles?" And she looked up in her book and she said, "The #1 rated here is Lehigh University." So I attended Lehigh University. It was the only school I applied to, got in, and I studied for 4 years, and I studied civil and structural engineering. And I was so excited my senior year to finish my degree to get back to the job site. And so during my senior year, my dad came to visit me at school, and I'll never forget it. He comes into my dorm fraternity where I live, and he said, "I got some good news and some bad news." He said, "The good news is I'm going to retire. The bad news is you got to get a job." So I was, wow, devastated. I stayed at Lehigh for 1 more year. I finished my master's degree in structural engineering. And then I worked for a year in New York City doing temporary design structures. And then I attended Columbia University in New York, and I did my PhD in mechanical engineering. I figured I was pretty good at the school thing, so I kind of kept going. In 2003, I started a structural engineering firm in Florida. And by the time I reached 2008, I had 20 employees in the US, I had 80 employees in China, and I had 20 employees in India. And in 2009, I sold that firm to a 4,000-person international engineering firm out of Canada. And then in 2011, I got the band back together, and we started a firm called Base 4. And at the same time, it was me and 3 partners, and at the same time, the king of Morocco gave a 68-acre mountain to the king of Qatar. So somehow, I was able to negotiate and win the design contract for the king's palace in Morocco. It was a $450 million job. It was built in 3 years, and they had 2,000 workers on site. So there are so many stories that I can tell you about that job and about the king and working for his staff and the dignitaries who came to visit. But if I'm being honest, there were several times during that project that I was pretty sure I was going to be murdered. I would email my location to my partners and my wife before I went to a meeting so they could find out where I last was and track my body. I actually, one time, and this is not a lie or exaggeration at all, I walked into a meeting on the 28th floor of Doha, building in Doha, and I was meeting with the king's people, and I remember checking the windows if they opened, because I was asking them to pay us, and they weren't excited about that. I remember thinking, I'm going to get hung outside this window. It was a crazy project. So over the last several years, my partners and I built Base 4, a hotel architecture and engineering design firm. Base 4 now designs about 80 hotels a year. We've been on 5,000 fastest growing companies in America 3 years in a row. We're ranked the 12th largest hospitality design firm in the U.S. We have a team of about 275 architects and engineers with offices in the U.S., in India, in the Dominican Republic, and Tbilisi, the Republic of Georgia. We call ourselves a technology firm in the AE space. In my personal life, I live in Nashville with my wife. I've been married for 21 years, and we have 12 children. Yeah, most people say that. 10 of my children are adopted, 2 are biological. We have 3 from China, 1 from India, 6 from the Philippines. Basically, I live in a fraternity house that is never quiet. Every night we sit down for dinner. My wife cooks dinner every night for 14 of us. We have a table that's 6 foot by 10 foot wide, and it's nuts, and there's usually somebody standing on the table. My personal life is crazy. Now, I share all that to let you know I'm kind of the type of person I am. I like to think outside the box in my professional life. I like to think outside the box in my personal life. And I'm really excited about doing things differently and seeing awesome results. And I want to see us as a community grow and again, build faster, build stronger, build smarter, better than anyone else, and have just a fun time doing it. So the first question we've got to ask ourselves today: what happened to our industry? A couple of years ago, I remember asking my dad. I said, Dad, back when you were running the company, did you ever send any questions to the GC or the architect or the engineer? And he thought about it for a minute. He said, no, I never. He's like, the crew that we have, we actually never saw the engineer or architect. And we had a question, the guys figured out in the field, and sometimes we would ask the inspector, but they usually didn't know what was going on either. So my dad said, hey, my team of men, they've been laying out buildings since they were children. If they couldn't figure it out, it wasn't buildable. So then I asked him, have you ever sent an RFI to the GC? He didn't know what an RFI was. Never heard of it. I've never heard of that term in my life. 40 years in being a concrete and masonry subcontractor, he built hundreds of buildings between 1 and 7 stories, and he cannot remember one single RFI that he sent to the GC. He also remembers only one singular meeting with the structural engineer, and he never, ever issued a single change order. We're all like, hey, let's hire him. Nowadays, on every project, we have many RFIs from each sub to the GC, to the architect, to the engineers, going back and forth. We got emails bound back and forth. We've got weekly phone calls, OAC meetings. We have site visits, face-to-face meetings, sending pictures back and forth from our phones, right? And at the end of the day, we're all spending an enormous amount of time figuring out what is or isn't a change order. So the question is, what happened to our industry? So over the last 20 years, we've watched the pride, the good pride, of our industry erode away. When I first walked on the job site 30 years ago, I was among a group of smart, talented people who not only enjoyed their career, but they were invested. They were proud. They took ownership of every building that they built. The site was exciting. It was a vibrant place to be. And man, I remember just wanting to be there. If you talk to the subcontractors today, they'll tell you we can't find people to come to work. They're struggling to find people that would make their careers in the trades. Even mothers and fathers that own subcontracting companies, family businesses, can't get their own children to do it, even though it's quite lucrative. We can see it play this out every single day. The young, talent, and quality have left the AEC industry. Year after year, construction costs continue to increase. You all know that. Material costs increase, construction schedules increase, everything takes more time and more money to build. And when you pick up your head, every industry in the world has a better product, a faster schedule, and a cost that makes sense. How are we living in a world with far more technology and data than ever before, but something as simple as a 4-story wood hotel takes twice as long to build? How is that even possible? According to Eric Jacobs, Marriott International Chief Development Officer, he says, the time it takes to build a 3 or 4-story wood frame mid-rise hotel used to be 12 months. Now we're at 20 months. Our owners and investors are asking, how do we get back to 12 months? If it hasn't been said before, it's official. The AEC is DOA. So how did we get there? How did we get here, right? Well, that's the question we've got to look at. What happened? Some of us have been around longer than others. And if you think about the construction site that you walk on today, there haven't been changes. There are many changes in the way the building has been built. I mean, there haven't been changes in 25 years. 25 years ago, remember back if you can, very few of us had an email address. The only internet in your home was the AOL dial-up, right? Phones actually had cords that attached them to the wall, and TVs were still huge boxes that sat on the floor or on a table. According to John Beck, the chairman of AECon, he says, looking at the construction projects today, I do not see much difference in the execution of work in comparison to 50 years ago. The AEC industry is antiquated. Everything that happens on the job site is out of date when you compare it with the rest of the world. Thus, you have a $1 trillion a year industry in the USA that hasn't changed in 100 years. Sure, we went from paper to AutoCAD, and a couple people made it to Revit, and there's a few people sending out RFIs on Procore, but the structure and the mentality of our AEC industry has not made it past the Industrial Revolution and has no idea how to handle the information age. Think about the method that architects and engineers use for training. Architects, engineers, subcontractors, GCs, developers, right? We all still use the mentor-mentee model. One older person with more experience trains a younger person. Right? This is still the method that is used today, promoted and believed in. This is the same training method that was used by the baker and the blacksmith and the candlestick maker hundreds of years ago. And not only is this training method completely outdated, it creates a hierarchy which starts in training and perpetuates through the university or through the organization. The system creates a very deliberate, heavy feelings in most companies. Age and experience are valued and revered. Innovation is looked at with very skeptical view. Youth and thinking outside the box are ridiculed in our industry. You see it play out in front of you every day you're on the job site. You're sitting in the job trailer. Someone sits back and crosses their arms and says these words, I've been doing this for 25 years. That sentence is a weapon. It's used to intimidate and shut people down. If that sentence was used in a Google or Amazon or Facebook meeting, they would be asked to leave. You would say, you have no business being in this meeting. Millennials in the world today have no idea how to interact with our antiquated industry. Young innovators come out of college and they're forced to go backwards in time 100 years to enter into our playing field. They can't understand what the heck is going on. If you don't believe me, ask anyone who's 20 if they want to come into your industry, in the construction industry. They will tell you no way. I don't know about you, but I felt like I was walking on pins and needles in the industry until I was 40 years old. I grew up in the construction industry. I have a PhD in engineering and construction. I'm a relatively confident person, right? But many times I was made to feel stupid. I remember sitting in meetings and contractors saying to me, you know, you need to use the VFDs and the 404s to make the J6 work. You should know that. I'm thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. None. And then I'd go back to the office and Google at old man time. Google didn't know what he was talking about, right? The story plays out 100 times every day in America across our industry. We don't embrace new ideas. We don't embrace new thinking. We don't invite young people to collaborate with us in our processes. We shut people down because of our own agendas, our own insecurities, and because that's the way it's always been done. In the age of social media, self-driving cars, smartphones, no young people want to go into a field that hasn't had any innovation in 100 years. No one wants to go to work and be shut down until they're 40 years old. The youth don't want into our industry, and it's a huge problem. So the AEC industry is also measuring the wrong metrics. Most engineers and architects are professionals. What do? They charge you by the hour, right? They still calculate their fees using the hour model. I mean, if you think about your Android phone or your iPhone, how many hours does it take to make your phone? I mean, do you care at all? No, you don't, right? So if you step back for a minute, you take off your AEC hat, think about what we create, what we sell. We sell a product. Our products are drawings and buildings. That's what we sell. We sell buildings. I know it sounds like semantic, but it's really important that we understand that we produce a product, and our products are buildings. When you say as a company, hey, we reproduce a product, then you can start studying operations and procedures and automation. You can look, if you look at all the companies in the world, what do? They collect their intellectual property, they produce a production line, and they create a product, and over time, that production line is fixed and tweaked and changed and studied and adjusted and reinvented, and the quality increases and the efficiency increases and the speed increases, and this is what we need to expect in our industry. Every day we should see quality, schedule, increase, go faster and faster. Imagine for a second if I own a restaurant. However, every day I'm forced to buy my ingredients from different vendors. That means every day I have a different chicken guy, a different lettuce guy or girl, a different bread guy, right, delivering my ingredients. It also means I have no relationship with my vendors, right, no consistency. Sometimes the chicken shows up great, sometimes it's fatty, sometimes it's late, sometimes it's expensive, sometimes it's pork. Sometimes it doesn't show up at all. Every day we have different suppliers, no efficiency is being learned. At the end of the day, our customers have no idea what to expect. It's often poor quality, it's late, it's missing ingredients. They have no idea what they're getting until they sit down. They don't know how much it's going to cost until they're done eating, right? There's no way to know that information. A restaurant like that would never stay in business. The AEC industry, right? This is what we do every day. This is exactly what's happening in the construction world. We are extremely fragmented. Think about that for a minute. You start the project off, you have a whole boatload of consultants. Civil engineer, architect, structure, MEP, lighting designer, landscape, kitchen, laundry, all this team, you put them all together from ground zero to start the project. And once the construction gets going, you got owners, reps, you got a general contractor, subcontractors, all these different vendors, and they're all trying to work together with this piecemeal design team. So for every new job, we have a whole new group of companies, personalities, processes, expectations, and they're all thrown together, and they're all supposed to work at 100%. And then it doesn't happen. We all step back and ask ourselves, wait, why isn't this getting better? If you step back and you look at this the way it's set up, you'd be honest. If you're honest with yourself, you have to say this. This is the absolute stupidest setup that you could ever invent. It'd be hard to design a less efficient process. I don't know if we can do it, actually. Right? There are no successful industries in the world that operate this way. All right. According to McKinsey Global Institute, in the United States since 1945, productivity in manufacturing, retail, and agriculture have grown by as much as 1,500%. Productivity in construction has barely increased at all. Current measurements find that there has been a consistent decline in the industry's productivity since the late 1960s. That's crazy. The AEC industry is antiquated. The mentor-mentee method is outdated. The industry is a losing experience for young. We are measuring the wrong metrics, and to top it all off, we are such a fragmented industry. That is why the industry is inefficient. This is why the construction prices continue to go up. This is why quality continues to go down. This is why no project can stay on schedule. So how do we change the story? That's what we're talking about today. It's not a whole depressing lecture, right? Of how we all suck. No. How do we change the story? All right, so in December of 2012, my wife and I we had 3 children at that point, and we went to China to adopt 2 more children. We were adopting Jiacheng James, who was then 13, and we were adopting William Chubo, who was 2 years old. And they're in the picture. And while we were in the city of Guangzhou, China has like 10 million people, right? And we decided to take the subway somewhere. It was my idea, not my wife's. And the subways in China are crazy. I mean, totally crazy, right? They're super busy. You actually have to slam the person in front of you, and as the door closes, it's not like New York subway where you put your hand out. They don't stop at all. So we're going into the subway, and it's filled wall to wall with Chinese people. I have a family of 7 people. My wife, Jody, me, 5 kids. Train comes, doors open. I have my 10-year-old son, Garry, my 7-year-old daughter, Shia, and we push in. I push in, right? Come on! And I hear in the background my wife yelling, "We can't make it! We can't make it!" Right? So I pulled Shia, my daughter, off the train, and the doors closed. And as the doors close, I see my 10-year-old son, Garry, on the other side in the subway. He's in there alone and crying. And then I watched as the train pulled away with my son. So, waiting for the next train to come was the longest 5 minutes of my life. The great news is Garry got off the next stop, somehow found a policeman, and we did find him, right? I mean, he's with us now. So, so what's the point of the story? The point is that we are awesome parents. No, the point of the story is this. I thought I had a hold of Garry. I was under the impression I had a hold of my son. I believed that I had my son with me, but then I watched as the train left and my son left, or his son was on board. And we all think we're doing the right things, right? We all think we have a clear picture. I got it, don't worry, I've been doing this, don't worry, right? And we don't realize the train is leaving the station and we are losing our place in the industry. In my company, Base4, every year we strive to be more and more efficient, right? That's what we're looking for. And the first thing that we did was we put all consultants into one company. Architecture, structure, MEP, lighting, fire protection, fire alarm, interior design. And we realized having everybody in-house working on one platform ushered in all kinds of efficiencies. Then we stepped back and we analyzed the whole process. AE, architecture, engineering, design, is just data arranged properly on PDFs or sheets of paper. And there's a very logical order to that process, and there's a very logical order in every construction drawing. Our job was to take all of that information and put it in a straight line. So now what I'd like to do, how we're going to change the stories, I want to give you some practical next steps. How do we change the industry? I'm going to give you some really quick practicals, and in my opinion, these are the things you can start doing tomorrow to move our industry forward. Now, you don't have to take notes, you're welcome to. My email address will be up at the end, and if you want to have that, I can send you those 15 practicals, or you can never contact me again. Either one, I don't care. So the first step, what's our first practical? We have to lead with values, not with rules. The first step for every company is stop using rules and compliance to control your staff. You need to have, instead of having human resources, which is a compliance department, you need to have values-based leadership. Why? I mean, rules destroy freedom. If you want people to think outside the box, to innovate, they got to be free to do so. The name of my company is Base4. When we started it on 4 values, the things that were most important to us. Humility, most important to us. Humility, honesty, respect, and fun. We tried very hard to have no rules in our company. We don't have an HR department, we don't have vacation policies, we don't have sick days, we don't have time off. We just asked everybody to work according to these values. We believe that if you get super talented people in one room and you give them freedom and focus, then their job will be fun and fruitful. I can say with great confidence that this method has worked in an incredible way. I mean, it's scary at first, and we've argued, hey, you need to have rules. We said, no rules at all. We're just going to expect people to do their job and be awesome at it, and they did. Next step. The future of the AEC industry is going to be intense. It is. We need talented people and companies to focus on niche areas. The last thing that we need are jack of all trades, master of none. We need experts in niche area. My challenge to you, choose your niche. It should be the intersection of what you're good at, what you like, and what the market needs. My children think they're going to be singers, and I tell them every day, you're terrible singers. You got to be good at what you do, right? You got to hit the same nail on the head over and over and over until your expertise drives you into the world of innovation and automation. At Base4, for the last 5 years, we've only designed hotels. We used a very different model. We started off with hits and bumps, but now we're designing 70, 80 hotels a year, and we're moving into an automated design process. Now we're starting to branch out. Going into assisted living, we're going into modular design. We started a company called Mods4 and Vita4 for ALFs. Choose your niche, focus on your niche, become an expert, innovate, and then branch out. All right, next step number 3. When you have sub-consultants, you have zero control on how they work in an ever-changing marketplace. You also are hiring people with very little incentive to be innovative, right? They're focusing all their efforts on winning the next job. According to McKinsey Global Institute, most individual players lack both the incentives and the scale to change their systems. So think about your sub-consultants. How can you start eliminating them one by one? How is that possible? I know you think that it's impossible, but just start thinking about it. It'd be hard to believe that a country would have an economy at all if you fired more than half the labor force. But that's what the Industrial Revolution did to the workforce in the 19th century. 200 years ago, 70% of our country lived and worked on a farm. Today, automation has eliminated all but 1% of those jobs. So actually in 100 years, we went from 70% of our country working in agriculture to 1%. Automation created hundreds of million jobs that no one ever thought about 100 years ago. And before the end of this century, 70% of our occupations will be replaced by AI. It's definitely happening, and we're going through the same, the fourth revolution again. So we all must embrace technology, and we all must stop complaining about technology. We need to take time and study the concepts of what different technologies do. In my company, we talk every day about Revit, Basecamp, Smartsheet, 3D Max, virtual reality. We talk about Dynamo, Python, Mongo, Ruby on Rails, right? We talk about these things every day. All of the words I just said, you should know. Not only should you know those words, you should know how they apply to your industry. And when you do actually decide to move forward in technology, right, you have to understand you've got to be committed, 100% committed. In 2014, we moved Base 4 to 100% Revit. I had the IT department remove AutoCAD from everybody's computer because I was like, I'm done with this, no more AutoCAD, we're only using Revit. Now, from the complaints my staff gave me, you would have thought I was hurting their children. They were so angry. But you know what? We did it, right? And then in January 2018, we decided, hey, we have to get off email, right? We're going to move from email to Basecamp. And the operations team came back to me and they said, Gary, we need 6 months to move from one to the other. And I said, you have 2 weeks. Again, the complaints were unbelievable from everybody. This is impossible. But you know the crazy thing? We did it both times. We made the jump. It was totally successful. Later on in 2018, we pushed our clients to stop using email, right? And we said, you've got to get on Basecamp. I explained to them, email is 30 years old. It is no longer a technology. Stop calling it a technology. It is a disaster. I have to beg my clients, please stop using email. Please stop texting me like we're 12-year-old girls. Stop it, right? We've got these are silly actions. You have to stop them. All of my clients complained. All of our clients started using Basecamp. Now all of our clients love it, right? There can be no backdoors with technology. You need to understand. You need to research. You need to run forward. You can find some good platforms. I use Basecamp. I like Smartsheet. There's some other stuff out there. You can start getting acclimated. Then you can actually, a lot of these programs have APIs or backends that you can program. You can hire someone to come in and program your own apps, to run your own software. There's a lot of power. Basecamp is very cheap. I mean, these are not expensive things to do. The potential is unlimited and the cost is not that expensive. All right, next step, build departments. As you build your team, everyone has to have a unified vision. That's very important. You need a very clear vision. This is the direction we're going. But you need to have separate specialized departments. You must give those teams freedom to run their own departments, right? The keys to innovation are freedom and focus. After you set up the departments and you've got people working in departments, I suggest that you have a small operations department that determines how to move information from one to the other. So now you're saying to me, Gary, we can't afford to hire all this staff. And I agree, I don't think that's a great idea. When we started Base 4, later on Mods 4 and Vita 4, right, what we had is each company, we had 30 departments in each company. And a lot of them were empty boxes on the org chart or one person leading 10 different departments. But at least we had the structure of knowing how we were going to fill out. And those departments really are the key to success. So that's a practical there. Build departments. Next, a number of years ago, My wife, you're like, what's that slide? My wife and I took our children to India for several weeks. And we had an incredible trip to India. And when we were in India, I had the idea, we were actually 7 hours away from any major town. We were way, way, way out of the city. And we decided that we would rent a snake charmer. So it was only like $5, really inexpensive to rent snake charmers. So the snake charmer showed up with 3 baskets, and the baskets were filled with the snakes, right? So he opened up the first 2 baskets, and he tapped with the flute the cobras on the head. So the cobras stand up, spread their wings, start dancing, right? He's playing the flute, and the cobras are going back and forth. You can tell the cobras were old. We're like, yeah, we've done this snake show a lot, right? Flute, got back in the box, we got it, right? So that was kind of cool. So then the old man opened the 3rd basket, and out slid an incredibly angry python snake. I think the python was just freshly caught. He was not into the show at all. He's like, this is not my thing, right? And he wasn't playing along with the whole snake show game, right? So the old man had a skinny man next to him. We'll call him David. So he had a skinny man next to him. His job was to catch the snakes if they got away. One job the skinny guy had, the skinny boy had, it was to catch the snakes. So during the flute song, the angry python makes a break for it, and he comes straight at my family and I. We're only 10 feet away. And so the snake is just angry coming at us. So the young boy hears his time to shine. He reaches out and misses the snake. So the giant snake is actually like really next to us. The old man realizes what's happening. He drops his flute. He jumps over the cobras. Grabs the tail of the python. Python curled up so fast and struck and hit his calf like super loud, and blood exploded everywhere. Meanwhile, the cobras got loose. And I looked over at my children, and there is my daughter next to a cobra. So the guy realized this is not good, and he went and got the cobras, and they wrapped them all up, right? And the old man, and was speaking in a different language, was yelling at the young man, right? Meanwhile, my children were like, this is the best snake show ever! So what's the point of that story, right? What's the point of the story? We need better workers than he had, right? He got the bottom of the barrel, right? Did one job, he failed, right? We need to attract young talent into the AEC industry. We need to start bringing some young, smart people into our circles under the age of 30. People that you actually get advice from. I'm speaking to the older crowd, right? People whose advice you actually listen to. Us older men and older women need to listen to what they're saying. Yes, we understand the construction industry, but they understand things that we don't even know about. Next step, number 6. At Base 4, all of our U.S. staff work from about 10 or plus different states in America, right? Because we don't have a central office. So we're not forced to hire people in any particular city. We don't force people to move to any city. And we found that we can find the best architects and engineers, and they can work from home. I can confidently say that our staff work is far more efficient and works harder, in their underwear, which some of us then moving forward. Okay. So we also have offices in India, in Tbilisi, Georgia, which is the Republic of Georgia near Russia, and the Dominican Republic. Right? They all work together on these platforms. As a technology firm, we don't have any paper in our office, and everybody works together on a 24-hour cycle. What's my point? You got to rethink your labor pool. You got to rethink your labor processes. What happened 20 years ago no longer works. Doesn't work with the millennials, doesn't work with the people. They don't want to come to an office, drive 45 minutes, commute there every day. You got to rethink the way you do things. All right, number 7. At Base 4, we have hired an incredibly talented woman with 2 PhD degrees in mental health counseling. She's also my wife. So she had no background in the AEC industry, and her job was to do leadership development and leadership training. She works as an executive coach to all the executives and the directors. Every year she does 2 classes. She teaches people. We have to have people go through the class in order to be promoted. And I would say nothing has changed our company more than this leadership development program. This is probably the most important practical next step I can give to you. You need to have unified vision, but you need to train your staff to have the same vision and the same values. Because what happens when people feel nervous or anxious, they always want to go back to what they know. And so you've got to have somebody really driving that vision and those values forward so that you can continue to move. Number 8, along with leadership, you also need technical training. At Base 4, we have 4 methods of training. First one is the staff can post on the message boards, and we have message boards so everybody is posting every day, people are learning. We have standard operating procedures, so every day when people are writing standard operating procedures, people are using them. We have classes. We ask every member of Base 4 to attend 2 classes every week. We give them quizzes, we grade them, and often their bonuses are based on their quiz scores. So obviously a lot of incentive there. And finally, all of the information that we learn is put into checklists, and we use checklists on every project. The intellectual property of our company is the knowledge of our staff. So we use message boards and SOPs, standard operating procedures, classes, and checklists to train our staff. And I'm amazed when I read these message boards. I mean, it's crazy. Within 1 year, every department has grown way past my knowledge and understanding. I mean, they have all reached super nerd status. It's pretty awesome. In order for your company to move forward, you got to create a culture of learning. My challenge, just put some type of training in place, even if it's super basic. Once a week, we're going to get together and talk about something new. Have it on the books, have it scheduled. Hey, there's a phrase that says you become what you measure. Have you ever heard this phrase, right? I grew up, I spent a lot of time in my life in church world. And what's interesting is many of the churches measure attendance. And every week, these churches will measure, they'll count the people who come to service, and they'll talk about attendance, and it was really the most important thing. So as part of this church, in over 5 years, that's all they focused on. So the church grew from 300 people to 3,000 people every Sunday. It was crazy. The problem was, the people that were coming really weren't any better. I mean, they weren't getting any better. They weren't any kinder. Their children weren't doing any better. They weren't getting any help. There was no more help in the community. All we had is just more people. So you ask yourself, why was there no growth in the church? Why nothing else happened? And the answer is simple. Nobody was measuring those parameters. It wasn't important to anybody. It was just numbers. So you have to ask yourself this question. What do we measure in the AEC world? Really? What do we spend most of our time talking about, discussing, thinking about? Think about your schedule last week. Think about your schedule the week before. I would guess most of us spend an enormous amount of time solving fires, putting out fires. I mean, half the crowd is checking their email right now for the fires that are coming in. Like, whoa, if you step back and you look at what we do, right? We've successfully created the same level of drama as like the Jersey Shore reality TV show. It's drama all the time. So let me say it this way. We measure success by how many problems we solve. Many of us do. So the only way to be more successful is to solve more problems. So the only way to have more problems is for us to create more problems. I know this is subconscious, but that's what we do. We are in an industry where we have to create problems in order for us to feel successful. I know it's getting a little deep there. Sorry. So how do we change? We've got to measure the right stuff. Number 9, start building some databases. Our industry has a massive amount of data, but it's extremely unorganized. If I asked you to put together a list of a height, place, every door handle, or every door handle for a guest room, and I asked you to go ahead and do that, how long do you think it would take? I mean, every door handle we buy will cost. Probably takes somebody 8 hours to put that list together. Think about that for a minute. We work in an industry in the middle of the information age, and it would probably take 8 hours to put together a list of 100 door handles. So this is going to be our number one problem as we move into automation and AI. Is our databases. So what do we need to do? We just need to start. By practical, start building databases in your company. Take all that information that's in your head and scatter it in your notebooks, on your computer, set up a smart sheet or a Google Docs, create some headings, and start recording the data. You need to start creating a culture. If you're ready, have the data. You're already doing this, start going to checklists. Checklists are fantastic. Because they start changing the culture of your company to understand how to utilize the data, right? At Base 4, we have checklists for every project at 30, 60, 90 permit drawings, construction drawings. We have checklists for every hotel brand, for every different state, for every one of our clients. Checklists will get your company used to the idea of automation. Number 10, create SOPs, standard operating procedures. Sit down every morning for 15 or 20 minutes and write down what you do. Put that on a Google Smart Sheet, print it out, talk about it with your staff. Start making a standard operating procedure so they can understand what you do. Don't just say we're going to walk together for 20 years, mentor, mentee, and they're going to pick it up by osmosis. Start writing it down. Number 11, embrace automation. When you jump into an AEC project, there's pieces everywhere, right? And your job, the people who win in our industry are people who take all those pieces and put them in a line into linear thinking. At Base 4, we used to have 2 architects sit on a job and ride it all the way through to the end, and they were expected to know all 10,000 things. So then we set up a production line. Every team starts a new job at Team 1, and you can see it on the board. And then they do 8 hours, they do 100 tasks. The next day it goes to Team 2, next day to Team 3 and 4 and 5 that work in parallel. And at the end of day 25, the project is complete. 4-story hotel, all the engineering, all the architects, 25 days to complete that. So what we have are the same people working on the same 100 tasks every single day. We don't expect them to know 10,000 tasks. And then we talk about programming. We take the next step. We basically take out of those 100 tasks, we figure out how do we write some code. Dynamo is the API, the back end of Revit. How do we write that? It's kind of like a Python visual-based language. And we write the steps. So now, out of the 100 steps, 5 or 10 of them are automated. And the number one reason for this isn't necessarily efficiency, it's quality. Quality in our drawings. We've had some quality problems when we started a couple years ago. And so now we've gotten to this where we could actually knock out those quality problems and have the same quality every job. Number 12, sell a product, not a service. All right, every day my team comes to work, they have to understand they're building a machine to produce a product. Every step of what we design is a choice from limited data. We are organizing all of our notes and our details into a database. We're programming the back end of Revit with Dynamo. We have, essentially we have software robots working side by side with humans to produce a higher quality product. Kitara, some of us have heard Kitara. It's a huge firm, Silicon Valley, the brick and mortar construction company. Kitara has come on the scene. In the last 2 years, they raised $4 billion. They have a $10 billion backlog, and their whole premise is we deliver a product, not a service. And then we look at Prefab Logic and Audible. They've teamed up. They're building a first-of-its-kind automated modular factory. That factory is going to be open in 2020. Going to produce 1,600 modules a year. And they basically said the factory will create new breakthroughs in construction speed and capacity and efficiency. Both Kitara and Audible consider themselves companies that produce a product. All right, almost there. 13, almost there. Harvard professor Clayton Christensen invented the theory of disruptive innovation. Disruption happens when a competitor enters a market with a low-priced product or service that most established industry players view as inferior. But the new competitor uses technology and its business model to continually improve its offering until it's good enough to satisfy what the customer needs. There's a lot to say about disruption, but the best thing to do is think about Blockbuster, then think about Netflix. That's disruption, right? That's how you understand the whole thing. So, as you start to do the things that we talked about today, as you start rolling into them, right, you start doing them, you're going to think everybody's going to look at you and cheer you on. That's so awesome! You're changing the industry. But that's not what will happen. You will be attacked. The things that I've heard about my company and myself for the last 5 years have been crazy. I mean, crazy, right? We've been called communists. It was said that all the leaders had to move to China because we've been indicted by the government, right? We lost large contracts because third-party people said they didn't like our business model. I mean, it was said that we were an internet company, that we weren't real, like crazy things that were said. The stories go on and on. My next practical step, as you move into this, just get ready to be attacked. Finally, number 14, modular. Off-site modular construction is the first step. It solves a lot of the problems. My practical next step is start studying out modular, start learning about it, at least understanding how it fits into the industry. And finally, number 15. According to Klaus Schwab, he's the founder and the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. Here's what he said. Listen to this. He says, we stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, the way we work, and the way we relate to one another. In its scale, in its scope, and in its complexity, this transformation will be unlike anything humankind has ever experienced before. Yahoo, Intel, Dropbox, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter have all purchased AI companies in the last several years. Private investment in the AI sector is expanded at an unprecedented rate. The future of AI will overtake us like a tidal wave. Last thing I want you guys to see, in 2010, the calculations per second that a computer could do were equal to a mouse brain in 2010. By 2025, the computer will be able to do calculations per second as fast as a human brain. By 2050, a computer will be able to do the same calculations as all 7 billion human brains. Think about that. Think about what that means for our lives. And are you preparing to drive the train into the future, or will you be standing on the platform watching it leave? The practical next step, get prepared for AI by doing all the things we talked about today. All right, at this point, I'm going to invite my friend and colleague, Eric Rowan, to come up. Eric is the president for the development services for McKibben Hospitality. Eric's been with McKibben for 16 years. He's built 35 hotels. He's leading the charge for third-party development services. That's what they're offering. And we're working on several projects together. Eric is a great guy. So I wanted to ask Eric some specific questions and how his development company is handling these. So, Eric, do you want to jump right into the questions?
Sure. Are you going to read them to me? Or?
I can read them to you.
Yes, sure.
Sure. So, the question number 1, right? Practical number 3 was about eliminating subcontractors to reduce fragmentation. What steps is McKibben doing in that direction?
So we've been focusing for several years on trying to hire AE firms that have a lot of in-house consultants, like you were talking about earlier. And like you guys, and it's been great. We see that creates better coordination, faster responses, less variation in experience amongst the team, better accountability within the organization, less finger pointing, things like that. Another thing that we've just started doing on the last few projects is we're trying to create some more continuity within our organization from project to project. So we're bringing on, it's not really eliminating subcontractors, but a lot of the stuff you were talking about with respect to the chickens. We're trying to keep the same team together from project to project, and it expands far beyond the A&D piece. We're creating teams of purchasing agents, contractors, even within the contractors, project managers, and superintendents that will go from project to project. It eliminates learning curves. It creates just a stronger team spirit. And then it also, all the members of the team want to be part of something that's ongoing.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, the fragmentation is really dangerous to our industry. That's great answer. All right, we're going to jump down to question 3. So, one that's near and dear to my heart. Practical number 5 is about embracing technology. So, what technologies have McKibben using? You know, have you felt any resistance? Have you done any changes lately?
Well, thanks to you guys, several months ago we started incorporating Basecamp into our office. We got zero resistance from everybody, the older people, the younger people, and everybody embraced it. And the more we use it, the more people embrace it. But now what we're doing is we're taking all of our SOPs, all of our task lists, even our lessons learned, and we're creating project templates so that we can bring in younger people that haven't been through the whole development process, and they've got a roadmap from beginning to end. And as they're going through these task lists and procedures, they're actually able to kind of see all the pitfalls that you're going to come across before they have to learn it the hard way. So that's been helpful. Obviously, anybody in construction out there is familiar with project management systems like Procore. Most of our contractors at this point are using Procore. It's a great system in that you have access to everything immediately. One of the challenges that we've seen with these types of programs are that it's only as good as the people that are operating it. So if you're not keeping your RFI logs up to date, if you're not passing on submittals through there, it's not going to be useful. And sometimes it's also used as a crutch for anybody on the team to be able to just pass something on before thinking it through. It doesn't replace using your brain.
Yeah. You had said you made some templates of Basecamp. Was that hard for your team to do? I mean, was that, because that's awesome. That's
where now because we had a development manual that we've been using for years, but it's a big giant binder that sits on a shelf. People didn't seem to use it, but now with these templates, and we're just really kind of starting to embrace it, it's getting amazing amounts of use because people are afraid not to use it because they're afraid they're going to miss something. And it's so easy to just be going down these checklists, and it's always fun to check a box too. So.
Yeah. Would you say that just the checklists were easy to use, but you just had to change the culture?
We had to change the culture, and you know, basically everything within these checklists, and it goes from pre-design all the way through post-opening. It's a critical item. You can't skip over it. And this just, you know, in all the busy things we have going on running a project, this just eliminates the ability to miss things or do things incorrectly.
We'll jump to question 4. For everyone out here today and other developers, how do they start building databases and processes, SOPs, standard operating procedures? How do they get that going, and how's that working for you guys?
So, I mean, a great example is using smart sheets and having people kind of build it internally, online, and having everyone participate. You know, we've loaded all of ours into templates, but our templates are kind of a living thing. So as different project managers are using these templates, they're able to add things to them and grow them as we go. And then also the lessons learned. We used to have spreadsheets, like Excel spreadsheets with lessons learned, and they would become massive. We'd take every single change order that we experienced, we'd take every design error, everything, and we'd put it into these massive spreadsheets. And they were great because you could organize them by project type, you could organize them by city that you were in, brand that you were dealing with, discipline. But like you were saying earlier, they just become so cumbersome. So now we're able to take that information from those databases and incorporate them into our project templates so that people don't have to look for them.
Awesome. Question number 5, practical 9 was about rethinking the labor pool. Right? So regarding construction, project managers, how is McKibben dealing with that?
Well, I'm sure I'm speaking for others out here too. We've had a very difficult time finding talent to hire for McKibben. And I know our contractors that we use have been struggling quite a bit also finding good talent. The recession really hurt our industry as far as creating kind of a gap between the young and the old. And they just took a slice out of the middle. We always look for talent and for project managers, whether we have you know, a project for them or not, because they are tough to find. A lot of it comes through word of mouth with our colleagues. You know, they know somebody's moving to Atlanta or whatever, and we kind of track things that way. And we also try to kind of build a culture for like long-term hires, where people know that they have an opportunity to become a real stakeholder in the company, and they also have leadership opportunity as they grow with the
Are
company.
you doing any training or leadership development in an informal way? Are you guys trying to start that?
So a lot of our training really comes through our lessons learned, and I know that you hate the mentoring, but we still mentor a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's so many things on the job site that you have to see and touch when you're developing these projects, and we still do that. And then also it kind of adds, you know, the human touch and values in decision making, because we make a lot of decisions every day.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. Just kind of jumping on practical 10 and 11 more about about leadership development, which is kind of the training. So as you look into the future, how do you? I mean, what do you think you're going to do differently? Like, how do you think you can train differently?
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, so I mean, past the mentor mentee, you're trying to get a group of people, and how do you do that?
So I think that the systems and the SOPs that we're setting up really cater to bringing in younger people, like you were talking about. And that's something we really want to focus on. It's hard. It's a lot for somebody without a lot of experience to take on. And of course, it takes a lot of leadership and oversight at first. But once again, it really creates a platform for these younger generations to be able to jump in.
Good. All right, so any final thoughts of anything we discussed, anything you would share with these guys today that would be helpful?
I've got one question for you.
Okay.
All those bad design pictures, those weren't from...
No, they weren't from us at all. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Great. Well, to me, this point in history is really one of the most exciting things I've seen in my lifetime. And I'm excited to look into the future. We stand on the brink of a revolution, the likes of which has never been seen in the AEC industry. So now it is time for us all to change the story. Thank you for your time and have a great conference.